means a clear caesura in the development of the European Union. And as we can now see, I think it's a clear caesura in the development of the UK as well. And you can see how turbulent all of this is, that nobody a week ago would have thought that Standard & Poor's and Fitch would downgrade the rating of the UK. That they've lost the AAA shows you what difficult times we're in. And it's quite logical that the referendum has meant a real change, which we must react to. Today here, but in particular in Parliament, I have felt an atmosphere of sadness. There are people who really regret what's happened. We need the UK as a full member of the EU, and it's what the UK needs. But we must recognise the sovereign will of the British people, and we must implement that. And today I, like many colleagues today, were thinking of the more than 70% of the under-25s in Britain who voted for Remain. And even after the referendum are making it very clear with enthusiasm that they are Europeans and want to be Europeans, and that the future of these young people doesn't lie in re-nationalisation, but it lies in cooperation amongst states and nations across frontiers in Europe. So all of that makes us very sad, but there is hope, therefore, and I hope others share that hope. An entire generation feels a kind of European vocation. And that's not just in the UK. We get the same kind of vibes from other countries. Those who feel really bound to the UK. So I believe that there is some hope of resuscitating a European spirit in the UK. Now, we have asked Prime Minister Cameron to trigger Article 50 as soon as possible, following up on the decision of the referendum. And the reason for that is a very straightforward one. Nobody has any experience with a process like this. Article 50 has never been used. And therefore, it makes sense not to hang around and wait, but with mutual confidence and mutual respect, we have to try and develop some plan for moving ahead and deal with a technical plan for the exit of a member state. There is technical content. There must be technical content to the whole process, and we shouldn't wait too long. And therefore, I think it makes sense to trigger Article 50. Certainly, we have understanding for the fact that the government in London needs a few weeks to analyse the implications of what has happened and to work out its own plan for moving ahead. But okay, if you say we'll wait for the Tory party conference and then wait for the new government to establish its position, so that would mean waiting until the beginning of next year. And I would refer here to the great uncertainty in the economy, the great uncertainty on the financial markets, and I think it is not in anybody's interest to wait for that long. And therefore, the Parliament confirmed the wording again today that Article 50 should be triggered as soon as possible. And the Commission should discuss the technical way ahead with the government. of the United Kingdom, and I think the position of the 27 has been confirmed on that the position is no negotiation without activation of the article. So I think that's basically all I can say at the moment, and now I can take your question.
Ahmed Hemken von Rodau Nachrichtensender. Herr Präsident, ich habe eine Frage.
Mr. President, I have a question.
Wenn Großbritannien
If the UK actually moves to a Brexit, is this going to have any negative consequences for the fight against IS in the EU? The IS has attacked press freedom in the northern part of Iraq. I think that the local broadcasters there play a very important role. So how do you assess those attacks? Well, I don't think that Brexit is going to detract much from the joint strategy which we need to combat IS. On your second question, I wasn't aware that your broadcaster had actually been attacked, but that so-called IS, which is murderous and full of hate in its approach, that it doesn't respect human rights and has no respect for the principle of freedom of the media is something which does not surprise me. So I'd like to express solidarity with you and your colleagues who have been attacked. But if you're asking for my view on that, then I would say that freedom of the press is a very important thing indeed. I think there are many groups who there are many people who claim that they are the guarantees of democracy.
How probable do you think it is that at the end of the day the UK will go into reverse and they will exit from the Brexit? And in that case, what would that mean for the citizens? Well, that's a highly speculative question. We're now 5 days, I think, yes, 5 days after the referendum. I represent here an institution where there are often discussions, and I often hear the criticism that the European institutions don't respect the will of the people. Well, now the people have expressed their position. I regret their position, but they have voted for leaving the EU by a majority. And I would expect people to say, right, well, let's go ahead and leave the EU. And I would certainly expect that from those who were in favour of leave. And in Parliament, that doesn't appear to be the case. So you have to take a referendum really seriously. There's been a long debate over the issue in Britain, very controversial. If you start asking me to react on whether there can be an exit from the Brexit, in other words, go in reverse gear, it's not my role to comment on that. I feel very nervous about even raising the issue. I think in any case, if it is a debate at all, it's a debate in Britain, and it's not a debate to be held here in Brussels.
Well, this is a follow-up question